Hello friends, I'm Larry with Rides Done Right. We're at the 2019 Salem Roadster Show, and with me is Greg Meyer as always. Nice to see you, Greg.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So one of the stories that we found out about this weekend was the two Trans Ams that were up front, and one of them is owned by one of the promoters, Bob Simons. He's got a 76 original with a 455 4-speed, and I had a chance to interview him, and here's a little snippet of that.
Yep, we got two. We got one that's totally stock, and we got one that's been modified to the hilt. Car right now has just almost reached the 31,000 original mile mark. I bought the car brand new in 1976. It was my first new car I bought. I bought it right when I got out of college. If you look at it from the back, it's a carbon copy. But the front, there's a little bit of difference. And like I said, they had to make it look correct, so the year they released the movie, and the conversions were done by George Barris, and they made 6 of the cars, and they pretty well beat up the cars in the movie, as you can imagine. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I had no idea about the movie Smoking Bandit or anything. And one night she said, "Oh, we're going to go to the movies." Well, we went to the movie, and the only place to park was in front of the theater, and I had no idea. I was set up totally, and cars parked in front. I go in to watch the movie, and I couldn't believe it. I'd been had.
We found a couple of Willys drag cars, and we got a little information about it. What did you find out?
Well, I went around and I looked at what was here, and there's a couple of them. And one of them's your typical, what you normally see with the big motor and the, blown and stuff, and with the flames and all that. And it's really cool. Those are cool. But there's also another one, the black one, Bad to the Bone is what it's called. And it's cut, chopped and hammered down. It's another drag car though. It's got nitrous in it. I talked to the owner, and he actually got it at Hot August Nights. It was the first year he had gone to Hot August Nights without a car, and he ended up going to the auction and buying the car there. So he didn't go with a car, but he came back home with a new car. So, but it's really cool. It's a very contrast. It's a nice contrast between the two different styles, but they're both amazingly brute force, right?
Oh, and that black one, we've seen black before, but it has that contrast with the interior in it. It was a neat looking car.
It's really cool, yeah.
So as we would expect, there were street rods that were roadsters and coupes, and you're our expert on it, so give us a little insight to what you saw this weekend.
I went around, and there's a nice selection here. So there was a 32 Ford that was owned by the Pawn Stores, and that's right up front, pictures and everything. And then there's a Craig Wick made a 32 Ford with a Hemi, big old Hemi in it. It's got the paintings of a like a salt flax kind of car, race car. Really nice. I
saw that car come in, and it sounds really good. Yeah. And because Craig built it, we know that the quality is amazing.
Yeah. And then there's an orange 34 Chevy. You don't see a lot of Chevys at these cars, a lot of Fords. It's a 34 Chevy that the owners, he had known the original owner back in college. And unfortunately, his friend died. The wife hung on to the car for over 30 years. She got down on her luck, needed some money. She finally decided that she was needed to sell it, and so she called his friend. They were good friends at the time, because he died when he was only 26, so they were pretty young. And so she contacted him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to buy this." And it needed to be, restored. So they put all the effort and money and time into it. They got it really nice, and what you see here. And then they drove it down to Texas, and they picked up the lady that they bought it from and gave her a ride, right? And that's the ultimate.
That is so cool.
So right on the dash it says in memory of Bob, right? So it's a nice tribute car. On the way back from Texas, they went by his parents' place and gave them a ride, and they were just bawling the whole time.
That doesn't surprise me. You can imagine how emotional that would be.
But what a tribute, and it's got a story, and they love the car. He's done a lot of fabrication. They pulled the grill out and done some changes to it, it's a driver, and it's a cool car. So, and a nice story.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so one of the other cars that we did that you actually got an interview with was
David Jothan,
yeah.
right? And so his car's here. It's a nice little car, and here's a little snippet of it.
Well, as you know, Greg, I have a number of other cars, but I've always wanted a traditional hot rod, a fenderless car, skinny tires, and I had seen this car when it was started being built about 4 years ago and watched it evolve. And this last Father's Day, I happened to be parked 2 cars down from it, and the owner had recognized me, and we started talking, and he said he wanted to build a sedan to haul his grandkids, and that he was thinking about selling this car. And I just, he told me the number, and I said, sold. So he started getting cold feet, but we worked through it, and it's been great. The thing is, it's just one of those cars that you got to slap the grin off your face after you drive it. And when I go out to my shop, and it's really, people, unless you really are a car guy, you don't understand. I walk out to my shop, and this car puts a grin on my face every time.
Well, I've never been a big Nomad fan. I'm not it's just kind of not my thing until Showmad. And Showmad, obviously we love that car. And in the show this weekend, there's a green Nomad called Nomad, and of course, now I'm starting to get it. This car, though, is pretty highly modified looking. It's got great paint, and it's why we actually wanted to stop and say something about it.
It's a nice car. It's not modified to the level of Showmad, but it's got a paint job that'll grab you.
Oh yeah, it does. They did a great job on that. I always like any of the cars that Kerry Vanderbeck does. He's a great builder. He's a local builder in this area, but his quality is top notch, national level. Anybody would love to have the guy build a car, and he built this Ford Fairlane. And I have to again admit that I'm not a huge Ford Fairlane guy, but after seeing this car, I'm a believer. I mean, this is what you can actually do to one. And this car had a really cool story as well. The owner of this car bought it brand new, and when his son was born, he brought him home in it. And later, when his son grew up, he gives it to his son, and his son restores it, and that's where you get to see the done product now. And it turned out fabulous. It's cool when you see these family histories and cars that get to stay in a family done.
Yeah, absolutely. I did ask him about the unique trim on it, and he said he pulled off probably 60% of the badges on it. Those 60s, there were lots of chrome things and lots of badges. He pulled a lot of that off to make it kind of cleaner, and then took some of the chrome around the windows and stuff, and on the back and the front grille and stuff, and powder coated those gray, so it would kind of tone it down. It's still a lot of chrome, but it's a nice touch.
Well, it's one of the things that I really liked about the car, and maybe that's something about him that I've kind of wondered about in the past, but everything about this car I really liked.
Yeah. And then right up front, there's another car. It's a 55 Chevy, really nice. It's clean, very stock. He did not a lot of modifications, which is a lot of the TriFives. They try to modify them because there's so many of them. This one's pretty stock. It's but really clean, really nice. The builders here, he showed it for the owners, and put a lot of time in it, and kind of an interesting builder because he actually charges by the job and not by the hour, time and material. So it's interesting, a different way to do it. And
wow, I bet everybody would love to kind of do it that way. Yours wasn't done that way.
No, mine wasn't done that way. You do have to be kind of careful, because if they're going to bid a job like that, they might, just have to be careful.
Last year at this show, we did a Cobra, and it was a real popular interview. You did the interview. Maybe it was you, maybe it was the car, but we saw a couple other Cobras this weekend. And what did you find out about them?
Well, there's both super performance again, and but two different styles. One's a slab side, one's the FIA, and which is like the other one. And so it's interesting to see the contrast between the two styles. So it's pretty neat, and we have another online video of that.
Cool. You're always going to see Mustangs and Camaros at shows like this, and there were, I think we counted 6 or 7 Mustangs here. The one that we really focused on and really liked a lot was a 67 GT500. We did an interview, Alan did an interview on this, and here's some snippets from that.
Alan, thanks a lot. I can actually tell you quite a bit about this Mustang. I took a 67 Mustang fastback shell that I had found, took it down to bare metal, then proceeded to build the whole thing up. As I intended to build this car to drive and drive hard, I focused a lot on the suspension. So it's got a really trick rear suspension with this, what's called a phase 2 Watts link that eliminates body roll. So when I go into turns, the car stays flat and the body stays centered over the rear end. Then on the front of the car, did some things with the control arms, lowering the upper control arm, reinforcing them, a heavy sway bar so the car dives into turns and it comes out flat.
Are you guys got to be producing this car?
Well, that's absolutely, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's our intention. So we incorporated, my handle has always been Big Daddy, and that's from the military, and then my buddies picked up on it about 20 some odd years ago, and they call me Big Daddy. So with the popularity that's come up with this car and with people making me some crazy offers, I decided to incorporate about 1.5 years ago. So we are officially producing these cars for customers. Big Daddy Motor Cars, you can look us up on the website. You can find all the details, all the specifications.
So when we come to this show, you're always going to find things that are outside of a category. You know, we'll call it like miscellaneous, but one of the things that we found here was a Crosley, and I don't think I've seen one in real life, but you got a chance to talk to the gal who owns that car. What'd you find out?
Oh, she doesn't even know what it was. It was a fun story. When she saw it, she didn't have any clue what the car was. This one's a station wagon. Crosley made different styles, only a handful or so. They actually started out making radios. That's how he got enough money to make cars, was by selling radios. And Martha, the owner of the car, actually bought a Crosley radio here at the show during the auction, so raising money for charity. So really cool story. But
and she was really excited about that. That was pretty cool.
But the micro cars have a whole following of people, and maybe, you know, I hope we're able to touch some of those people out here, because the micro cars, there's a lot of different manufacturers, but they're tiny, right? And actually the Crosley is probably one of the bigger of the micro cars, right? But it's a cool story. It's a neat car. She just had everything done, and she's so hooked into it. She loves that car so much, she actually has 2 more in the works now. So
now I didn't catch that part. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And she I would say she looks like she would own something unique too. I'm not saying she's, but it was neat.
No, she's a really cool person. Yeah. No, I like this category of cars. When we get to this, they're just fun.
It'll be fun to see. Hopefully more of these when we get out to shows.
Yeah.
One of the things that we saw that was kind of interesting was bumper cars and what you can do to a bumper car. And what did you find out they could do to one of those bumper cars?
Well, these are antique bumper cars. So the ones that ran around, these in particular are 1953. So we bought them from a guy at the Portland Swap Meet, and he actually took the one that he bought and scaled it up and did a lot of hand fabrication with the metal, and he got a golf cart and he chopped up the golf cart, made the bumper car so he could drive around in it. And so it's electric, it pops up and he's able to work on it and stuff. But he actually tows the real bumper car behind the golf cart one, so
that's pretty cool. Well, and I did notice that he added a wing to it so he can get some downforce on
right.
it. They didn't need the downforce with the bumper car, but boy, on that one with the wheels, it comes in handy.
Yeah. fun cars.
Yeah. A car that has that we've seen here at this show over the years is the cab over that Russ Strohmeyer has, and Russ does the sound at the Salem Roadster show, and he wanted something to pull his sound machine. He's got this wagon that he pulls that's diamond plated and everything. He pulls around behind it, and it's been neat to see how that turned out. And I had a chance to talk to him, and here's a snippet of that interview.
And with the Photoshop rendering that I had done, exactly how I wanted it to look. And boy, he just pretty much replicated it in the real form here.
I remember when we first saw the cab of it, we were like, oh, this is going to be cool. I think the question that I hear the most asked is that chassis. Everybody trying to figure out what you put it on. And I hear motorhome and all kinds of stuff. But
well, I built a 53 Chevy cab over on a motorhome chassis before, and that worked. But the 53 cabs are a little wider. And so this 41 cab is much narrower. So I had to find a chassis that the tires would tuck under. So I did a lot of, junkyard looking and measuring, and found that a P30 bread van chassis with an independent front suspension has a narrower track width, and that would work underneath this truck.
Well, one thing was evident to us when we came in, and that was there were a lot of trucks, enough that we had to count them. There were 21 trucks in this, and by far the most trucks I've ever seen here. And it just happens to be that the two vehicles in the show that we picked as probably if this show had a show winner, would be one of these two, is what we were thinking. And so here's a snippet of an interview that Greg did with a beautiful red one, and let's check it out.
It's a 1964 Chevy truck, and we basically just ripped her apart from the top to bottom, and it took us about 8 years to build it. The motor is a 540 big block Chevy, 1071 blower. It's injected, and it's about 1,200 horse right now, which is plenty.
Yeah, very, very much plenty. What's the transmission and the driveline?
We are running a 700 R4,
okay.
And a lot of my buddies told me it wouldn't hold up to the power, but so far it's been flawless. The truck was in really good shape when I bought it. I bought it in 2000. We were living in Fresno, California at the time. Bought it from a police officer who had it stolen out of his garage.
Oh yeah.
So I bought it from him in pieces, but it was in excellent shape.
Okay.
And it was just a little street truck at the time. I knew I wanted to restore it to this level at my son Bob's funeral.
Okay.
All of his buddies were over at the house telling stories and how much Bob enjoyed driving the truck and doing burnouts in the school parking lot.
And is this anything you knew about?
Which I did not know about. And at the time I might have been upset, but I knew what direction I wanted to take the truck, and we were going to dedicate it to Bob.
So that truck was a really nice truck, but as well was Carolina Customs did a truck that went to SEMA and got moved right to the front row at SEMA, and they wound up winning in their class. It's a fabulous truck, and here's a snippet of that interview.
Okay, so the truck is a 1940 Ford pickup. It was a swap meet find down at the Portland swap meet. We pulled it in. We had the frame built from Schroeder Speed and Custom, trying to figure out some designs of what we can do to change everything. Air ride suspension, Accu-Air, custom built the tank, fire compressors. We want to do something a little bit different for the wife and stuff like that. So we stole the window out of a 51, 52 F1 and molded it and grafted it into the 40 Ford. Did an LS3 supercharged from a buddy of mine, Casey Wagner. We had some issues in the beginning. Owner designed a grill. We mocked up a grill. We sent it out to a company. They were supposed to come through. A bunch of stuff happened. We had owner had this idea. This is what we're doing. Sent the grill out. Mocked up one for him. Sent the grill out. Right, like 3 days before SEMA. Here we are. We got this grill. Supposed to be milled out of 100% aluminum. One big giant brick, and they just didn't come through. Sent it to them. They 3D scanned it. Sent us back the grill so we could head to the Grand Nationals, and started milling us a full one-piece aluminum grill. They pulled the truck out of the box, and from what everything's been told by all of us and through the owner is, hey, you know what? We need to let these trucks load in. Can you take this truck and pull your truck over to the side and let us do this? Well, in the whole time of this is the bigwigs at SEMA want this truck at the front door. They're not telling us any of this. You know, the owner's calling me up and going, hey, can you call so-and-so at CNR? Because it's supposed to be in CNR Racing's booth that built the radiators and coolers for us. It's supposed to be in their booth, but they won't let us in. Goes to the Grand Nationals a couple weeks ago, takes best in its class. Truck comes back, here it is now, and now the truck will be headed out to Texas, and it'll be in Texas and Arizona and Medford.
They broke a lot of records at the show this year for bringing people in, and we saw it was great for us to see, and what it does is it says that people will come to events like this, and that that's what keeps them coming back. It keeps us having a show that's local to us. And for those that want to see pictures of all the cars and all the stuff that was in the show, we have a link to that off of our website, so check that out and keep watching because we've got more coming this year. And had fun as usual.
We'll catch you next time.
See you guys later. They had the biggest crowds that they've ever had at this show this weekend, so it was great for us to see that.
It's because of us. We come here and put it online and publicize it.
A lot of advertising we did that got them here, and they certainly saw us. And we had people standing all around us to watch this, so we really are the big draw. So now I have to redo the whole thing.